Good morning. Let's talk about gaslighting. So, this is a term that became famous. It originated in a movie, I think it was in the 1930s, where a husband was slowly driving his wife mad by lying to her about little things that were really difficult to place, whether the lights were on or not, things like that. And I would like to talk about how gaslighty I think parenting can be. You know, we are looking outside at what everybody tells us about parenting, what it looks like for other people, what it looks like in the media, what it's supposed to look like, what our pediatrician tells us it's going to look like, what it looked like for our neighbor, for our sister-in-law, for our mother, for our father. And then we look inside and we think about what we want it to feel like, what our dreams are, what our visions are. And then there's what it looks like on the ground. And there can be some disparity there. And it can be really confusing, honestly. And yet we're so confused because we have such a strong vision of what we think it's supposed to look and feel like, or what we want it to look and feel like. And it's hard to keep changing the channel to what it does look and feel like. And it can be very hard for many of us to be in our real lives. And we don't even realize it. Like, we are gaslighting ourselves constantly without even realizing it. And that, I believe, is part of the exhaustion that we feel as mothers and fathers and caretakers when we are just like that deep primal level exhaustion. It's not just because of all the work that you're doing, which, to be fair, raising children is a ton of work. It's actually because you are exhausted changing the channel so constantly and never believing yourself. So I'd like to invite you today to take a moment and just believe yourself. Actually start being in your life. Start tuning down the noise of what it's supposed to look like, what you wanted it to look like, and start actually being in your real life. Now, as I say this, some of you may be thinking like, no, I don't want to do that. My real life is complicated and messy. And no, I don't like what it looks like. And that's okay. Because the very first step to actually changing that is really being in it. The whole time you're running those concurrent channels, you're not actually able to look at what's really going on for you. And then you can't actually begin to make the change that will get you what you really want it to look like. So, reality, my friends, it's our friend. And I'll tell you a funny story. I had a mom that I met recently who decided to join our program. And as she did, she said, I just have one last question. And I said, yes. And she said, I just want to know that the stories in this community are going to resonate with me. Like, I don't want this to be a place where I can't relate to all the stories. And I said, well, there will definitely be some stories shared that aren't exactly pertinent to you, right? Like perhaps there's a family in the midst of a divorce with a kid who is, pooping in their pants, and it's a very specific circumstance. But even if that were the case, here's the deal. We're going to be talking about our adult relationships and what we allow our children to experience and not. We're going to be talking about our own emotional regulation. We're going to be talking about how we help our children through hard things. We're going to be talking about how we deal with medical issues. And all of those things will relate to you. Ah, yes, she said. I can see that, and that's true. But my question, I guess, is more like, is this going to be one of those places where it's like everything you say is right and it all sounds great, but it doesn't really work? And I said, Now I understand your question. No, my friend, this will not be that place. Because I made a promise a long time ago, once I finally got out of all of that I would never pass that on to parents. And truly, if we could have like a doormat at the foot of our 6-month program, then it would say no gaslighting here, because that is my promise to parents that I work with. And that's why I do this private podcast, and it's why I talk to you all so honestly, because I think gaslighting is actually incredibly unfair to do. And I don't ever want to lie about my experience of parenthood, and I don't ever want you to lie about yours. I think that the honesty is what sets us free. So no, there's no gaslighting here. If we give you an idea and you're like, sounds great, but I don't know what to do with it in practice, then we roll up our sleeves together and we go, cool, tell me what your in practice looks like. And then we figure it out until you like it, until you know how to use it. No more gaslighting. No more gaslighting. So, good morning.